So we have three types of tasks inside Mathspace that kind of focuses on the various layers. The custom tasks, we allow instructors to completely customize the tasks. And I'll show that in an example in a second. Adaptive tasks are really the one that focuses on that middle loop, on instructors don't need to hand-pick which questions to assign students. They just pick the node. We're all working on binomial expansions. Everybody work on that. Mathspace do the rest. You choose the questions adaptively based on how the students are going. And then there's the fast track task, which is a topic level diagnostic. We focus only on a topic level because we can't yet focus on the entire curriculum because you saw how big it is. The test would take too long, no one would actually do it. So we allow teachers to choose a topic level. So they might choose fractions or algebra or equations, a bit more specific, and we will choose questions from different parts of the nodes to try and hone in on what parts of the whole graph that students know and don't know, and then they can focus further on the individual nodes themselves. Okay, so, and each kind of achieves a purpose. I just want to talk a bit more about adaptive tasks. So with adaptive tasks, they can be student or instructor driven. So we don't need an instructor to assign those tasks. For custom tasks, they need to be instructor assigned. And what that means, I guess, what we're trying to do with it is really encourage a growth mindset. And we do that by reporting on mastery rather than a score. So when you have a set of 10 questions and everybody needs to do that same set of 10 questions, then at the end of it, you report a score of how much you scored out of 10. And the student who scored 2 out of 10, they see that they scored 20%, and that makes them feel really bad. Whereas with an adaptive task, what we report on is that mastery. You recall seeing that green bar that grew as the student got those questions correct. How long it takes to fill that bar varies depending on the student's ability. So that same student who got 2 questions right out of 10, they would get more easy questions that stick around that zone of proximal development, but they won't report seeing 20% as, and you failed, you scored 2 out of 10. They'll see that as 20% mastery towards my goal of 100% mastery in this subtopic. And the only thing stopping them from getting to 100% mastery is to do more questions. So for the A student, it might be just 10 questions and you get to 100 mastery because they're getting everything correct. But for that weaker student, it could be that they need to do 30 questions. They need to practice a lot more on the easier questions, which slowly remove that scaffolding as they progress. And the amazing thing about this, more than anything, is that growth mindset that it puts in the students. Instead of reporting to students, and we've probably all heard of mathematics anxiety, and students who are just anxious about mathematics, they've had a bad experience and they kind of feel, I'm not a mathematics person. I feel that adaptive tasks is a way to actually start to tell students that mathematics is, you're not a mathematical person or not a mathematical person. Mathematics is an endeavour where you need to actually struggle and persist, and that's where you actually learn and grow as a mathematician. And to focus our assessments around that, and more so, we're pushing teachers, encouraging teachers to stop assigning the traditional custom task, which is just the formal assessment of these are 10 questions and you'll receive a mark out of 10 at the end of the day, to saying, well, I don't really care. I just care that at the end of the semester that you've actually mastered everything you need to in algebra. And you can, I don't care if that took you 10 questions and 10 minutes to finish, or it took you 40 questions and 2 hours to finish. It doesn't really matter if you've mastered that content. And hopefully we can build that right mindset in students. And it really comes down to how instructors in the class deliver that message. One thing we've found with anxiety is a lot of students, so Mathspace is effectively now being used as a textbook replacement in a lot of high schools. Instead of going through, because of the vastness of the content, instead of going through and practicing questions inside on pen and paper and getting no feedback, we have the vastness of complete curriculum coverage, so you can do all of that in a digital format with all marks and all results stored for the teacher to review and the student. Now that also causes a bit of anxiety for students. So you'd think, no brainer, of course, why wouldn't I actually do the exact same thing I've been doing on pen and paper, except now I have a record of all of that. But for students, we found that for a lot of them, the fact that their teacher can now see every last bit of work that they've done in mathematics is a bit of a problem. And the way we've really tried to address that is it all comes down to how it's sold to the student. Is it that a big brother kind of, I can see everything that you're doing in mathematics? Or is it, and this adaptive learning of mathematics is a journey, and we want to kind of record your progress throughout that journey. And we found those who focus on adaptive tasks and sell that message of growth mindset, and I don't really care what you score on the exam, I care about how you progress through the learning, and if it takes you longer, it takes you longer. They have a lot more success in getting their students on board with moving towards digital, rather than the big brother, now we're going digital, I can see everything that you've done. Okay. All right, and then the last one, of course, is the fast tracks, where we have the topic selection. All right, I'll quickly show what these kind of look like inside Mathspace. I'll create a custom task. Okay, so from your planner page for your class over here, I'm going to create a custom task for the 31st. Okay, so these are the three types of tasks: the adaptive, the custom, the fast track, all kind of focusing on the different levels, the different layers of the adaptive learning. I choose who I want to assign it to. I can be specific and assign it to particular people. I was looking for myself there, but sure, I'll assign it to Mohammed Al-Aswad. That's not me. He'll receive some homework. Then I choose my curriculum. Actually, before I get into that, this is where it kind of gets interesting. The question variation, we allow the teacher to choose if they want the numbers to vary for each student, meaning two students sitting right next to each other, one might get solved 3x equals 12, students sitting right next to them might get solved 5x equals 15. So the same question type, but the numbers vary. Or if they want students to collaborate, perhaps they want the question to be exactly the same. And then this is really where our assessment mode comes in. So you saw that with the inner loop, we provide the hints and videos as students working through. Given that we're talking about assessment here, I think a lot of people might want to turn that off. So we can choose not to show the hints and videos if you don't want to. From there, it's just a case of picking I'm going to go World of Maths, which is all our curriculum. Choosing your topic from there, or we have a subtopic search, so we can say calculus. And something very college level. Here we go. Find the exact area bounded by the shaded regions. And we basically, from here, because this is a custom task, we can pick and choose our questions and just do a drag and drop as we go through. Notice that the numbers change, so you can actually, so y equals 2 cos x, I can drag this in again if I wanted to and have different numbers every time. All right. And it's just a case now of dragging all the questions that I like. I can choose from multiple topic areas, so I can say, well, I also want to ask some questions about solids of revolution. And so my right-hand side has the 4 questions that I've already selected. My left-hand side changes to solids of revolutions, and I can drag in some questions in from there. So basically, you can use the entire question bank of Mathspace to completely create a custom task of whatever questions that you want to have. And each one of those questions will have the step-by-step inner loop feedback that you go through. Okay. So that's kind of what that looks like. A nice feature that we've added as well is just saving this to shared exercises. So if you have multiple instructors and you want, obviously you've created the perfect assessment, you want to save that so that all other instructors at your university or school can use that same assignment over and over again. So that's what that custom task looks like. We've seen what an adaptive task looks like. I'll quickly show what a fast track task looks like as well. Okay, so this is the fractions fast track task. Because the fast track task is that outer loop, we're trying to find the right skills. So we're looking at all of fractions now, and we're trying to find which content areas students know and don't know. And we're trying to call the fast track because we're trying to fast track them through content that they already know. So here we start with a simple division, and I'll just see, we try to actually start in the middle of the graph. If you saw that connected graph that we saw before, we start in the middle of the graph, and we're basically doing something like bisecting the graph. It's more complex than that, but we're pretty much doing something like bisecting the graph and choosing the most appropriate question at each point in that graph to work out where students, what they know and what they don't know. Always trying to balance, of course, the length of the test with getting accurate results. So we'll quickly go through one of these. I'll just 8 over 9. I'll skip this question. Okay, so if I don't know what to do, I can say skip and move on, and then the questions will get slightly easier. We've just kind of bisected the graph and gone, okay, which of these fractions is furthest to the left on the number line? Hopefully I know how to do this one quickly. Submit, get that right, move on to harder questions again. So we've got 28 on 20. And of course, I need to simplify. It's one of the beauties of, I still haven't completely simplified. I'm getting that feedback as I go. All right, I can get those questions and move on. And so you can see, basically it's trying to assess, you can see how the skills are changing, and it's basically just going bisecting the graph and trying to work out what you don't know as you go through. Okay, so that's kind of how we have tried to apply that inner, middle, and outer loop adaptive framework inside Mathspace. Last thing I'll show with Mathspace is the handwriting recognition. So if we're going to ask students to input step-by-step working out, we have to make it really easy for them, especially if we're trying, and what we're trying to do is in high schools is replace the textbook. So we want to remove that inefficiency of writing on paper versus entering mathematical expressions, especially as they get more complicated and you need to write integrals and things like that mathematically. A lot of mouse movements there. So okay, go back to this question, but basically we can handwrite at the bottom of the screen. That's just me using my fat fingers, and you can see it recognizes the handwriting, put that answer in, and of course it's broken because I've already started this assignment somewhere else. Okay, so here we go. Minus 4x over 5 is equal to negative 8. Recognizes the handwriting. All right, and we move on, work our way through. So this has really lowered the barrier to entry. So anybody who has a tablet, it can be a touchscreen like my laptop over here, or an iPad, an Android tablet. It really feels just like you're handwriting your work. One of the things we certainly have tried to do at Mathspace is we get a lot of information out of students entering their steps. And it's one thing we want to really encourage is enter your step-by-step solution, not just the final answer. And we found that for a lot of students using laptops, they would do a lot of their writing on pen and paper, and we wouldn't capture any of that information, and then they just put their final answer into the system. And for a number of reasons. One, we make all this visible to teachers. So we want teachers to actually see the thinking behind the process and not just the final answer. 2, we collect data at every point. So rather than one question being one data point of correct or incorrect, we often get up 10 data points from a single question where we have the steps that students entered, whether they asked for a hint, whether they asked for a next step, whether the scaffolding helped them. And we're collecting all that data to improve our adaptive learning engine. So the more we can take it off pen and paper and put it online, the more data that there is in there for us. And so we found that by adding the handwriting recognition, it's significantly reduced the barrier there that students want to actually enter their working digitally. All right, that's got nothing to do really with the layers of adaptive learning, but I thought it's worth noting.